What happens when a child, barely 6, is left to face winter, hunger, and cruelty, alone? In the forgotten corners of the village of Rampur, under the shadow of silence and snow, a little boy clings not to warmth, but to a memory. A memory of a mother's touch. A whisper of love. But when love vanishes, who will remember the child? That winter in Rampur arrived earlier than usual. The wind burned the skin, as if it carried the warnings of fate itself. Before the sun could rise, in a crumbling shack at the edge of the village, a dry cough echoed through the thick morning fog. No one answered. Ravi, a 6-year-old boy, curled up on a shaky bamboo cot beside the dying fire. A thin, torn blanket barely covered his fragile frame. His stomach growled, his lips were cracked, and his little hands had turned purple from the cold. But no one checked on him. No one even looked his way. The house had become nothing more than a shelter for a discarded body, and a life that no one wanted. 3 months earlier, Ravi could still smile. Each morning, as the sun awoke, his mother would hold him close, kiss his forehead, stroke his hair, and whisper sweetly, "My son grew taller again today." Ravi's world back then was simple, contained entirely in his mother's arms. But destiny, like a ruthless blade, severed that sacred bond. His mother died after a prolonged fever. No one had the money to take her to the district hospital. And no one knew that little Ravi, just over 5 years old, had stayed awake the entire night, clutching her cold, stiff body during the monsoon rain. From that day, the fire went out. The house grew cold. And so did the hearts of the grown ups inside. Ravi's father, Ramlal, wandered like a ghost for days before deciding to remarry. Soon after, a woman named Shanti entered the house as his new mother. She dressed neatly, spoke sweetly, even called Ravi my little one in the beginning. Ravi, innocent and starved for affection, believed her. He smiled again. Once, when Shanti bent down to button his wool sweater, Ravi wrapped his arms around her and whispered, "Mom, you really came back, didn't you?" But hearts can lie. Just 2 weeks after the wedding, Shanti revealed her true nature. The sweet voice turned to shouts. The gentle hand became a stinging slap. Ravi began to live in fear, an unamiable fear, with no escape. Each day, Shanti dragged Ravi out of bed before the roosters crowed. He had to carry water, sweep floors, clean cow dung, wash clothes, and cook rice. His tiny hands cracked from the cold, his fingers bruised from squeezing icy water in winter. One day, he accidentally broke a clay bowl and received 2 brutal slaps. And his father? He sat silently. Eyes fogged with fear, he took a drag from his cigarette and turned away. Ravi's meals were leftovers, scraps. Some days he got half a stale chapati soaked in salted water. When hunger overwhelmed him and he dared to ask, "Ma, I'm hungry," the answer was always a venomous glare. "Shameless boy. You eat what I give you. Don't like it? Then starve, you cursed thing." At night, Ravi curled up like a stray kitten on a wooden cot. He didn't cry. He didn't dare. Any sound would earn him another scolding. "Shut up, you wretched thing. Cry one more time and I'll throw you out." The only place Ravi allowed himself to cry was behind the cowshed. There, no one saw. No one heard. And he could wipe his tears with the same cloth his mother once wrapped around his newborn head. Each time he touched it, he whispered, "Mom, if only you could come back, just for one night." If a child is never embraced, can they ever learn to love? Have you ever witnessed such cruelty? Comment 1 if you've ever felt abandoned so we can rekindle compassion together. Mornings in Rampur always began with rooster crows and temple bells in the distance. But for Ravi, dawn never meant life. It meant the start of another day of labor for the invisible child. He would rise in darkness, barefoot, trembling as he picked up cow dung from the frozen yard. The well water turned to a thin sheet of ice, but he had to drag a heavy wooden bucket to wash the pans, scrub dishes, and mop the floor. Sometimes his hands were so numb he couldn't hold the scoop and had to use his mouth to steady it. When the sun finally rose, so did Shanti's scolding. For a broken bowl. For missing a spot. For his face simply being annoying. She never needed a reason, her anger always found one. And his father? Still just a shadow in the house. Ramlal, once a gentle man who hugged his wife and son, now hid behind smoke and silence. He feared Shanti. But worse, he feared admitting that he had betrayed his own flesh and blood. One day, when Ravi's cheek was swollen from a beating for spilling yogurt, he looked into his father's eyes and quietly asked, "Did you see, Dad? Did you hear me getting hit? Or, do you hate me too?" Ramlal turned away. His silence stung more than 1,000 slaps. School was the only place Ravi could breathe. But it wasn't easy. His shirt was torn, his feet muddy, his hair messy. His classmates avoided him. At lunch, Ravi sat quietly, hugging his belly, eyes fixed on the fragrant tiffins of others. Sometimes, a crumb would fall and he'd pick it up, blow it off, and eat it. No one dared look. No one dared help. The teachers knew but just shook their heads. In this village, hunger and beatings were common. Ravi was just another name in the cycle of pain, that no one bothered to ask. Next to Ravi's house lived a woman in her 40s. Her hair was streaked with gray, but her eyes were bright like a crescent moon. Her name was Maya, a widow who lived alone. Her husband died in a rooftop accident. Since then, she survived by taking odd jobs around the village quietly, without complaint. Each morning, Maya saw little Ravi sweeping the yard, his back bent, his hands blue. At first, she said nothing, afraid of Shanti. But one day, she saw Ravi eating cold rice with salt by the fence, swallowing tears with every bite. She couldn't hold back anymore. That afternoon, when Shanti was away, Maya softly called out, "Ravi, come here, I have something for you." Ravi hesitated. Maya opened a banana leaf packet. Inside was half a warm chapati. "I just made it. You eat this half, I'll have the rest." Ravi couldn't believe it. He held the bread with both hands, afraid it might vanish. For the first time in months, an adult gave him food, with kindness, not curses. From that day on, Maya saved little portions for Ravi, bits of bread, some honey, a few guavas. But more than food, she gave him something deeper, recognition. One evening, as Ravi raked dry leaves, the wind blew dust into his eyes. He rubbed them hard, but it still hurt. Shanti saw him and snapped. "Crying over a little dust? What are you, a girl?" Ravi ran behind the garden and sat down, weeping. Moments later, a gentle hand wiped his tears. It was Maya. "Don't cry. It'll only make your eyes worse." "But I don't want to be here anymore." "I know. But you must live. Because one day, the sky will side with those who have no one beside them." In the Ksitigarbha Sutra, it is written, "In this world of suffering, even if just one person gives rise to compassion, the merit can redeem countless lives through many lifetimes." And in that moment when Ravi bit into that warm piece of bread offered by a widow, he touched compassion for the very first time. That winter dragged on like a sentence. Not just through the skin, but deep into the bone. While adults bundled under thick blankets, Ravi had only one torn sheet and the cold space beneath the kitchen loft. The house felt like a graveyard. Shanti curled up by the hot coal stove. Ramlal sat in silence, warming his hands, never glancing at his son. That night, the wind howled like it would tear the earth apart. Ravi had a fever. No one noticed. He didn't moan. Didn't cry. He just shook, clutching his belly, lips turning purple. "Mama, it's so cold, Mama." Though unspoken, his call shattered his own soul. By midnight, Ravi could bear no more. His head throbbed. His body burned. He stumbled to Shanti's door. "Mom. I'm hurting. I'm so cold." Shanti jolted awake, but instead of concern, she screamed. "Why don't you just die already? You want me to lose sleep? Get back to your place. Don't bother me." The door slammed. The sound of the lock echoed, like the gates of hell closing in his face. Ravi staggered back to his sleeping spot. He collapsed onto the floor like a lifeless body. A rat scurried across his hand, but he no longer had the strength to flinch. In his feverish haze, he dreamt of his mother, the gentle woman she once was, stretching out her arms to him across a field of wildflowers. "Mama, can I come to you now?" Everything began to fade. His breath grew shallow. His small body trembled with silent convulsions. At dawn, as Rampur village was still veiled in thick fog, Maya suddenly awoke with a jolt, an inexplicable sense of dread pulsing through her chest. She threw on a thick shawl and stepped outside. The wind howled. Leaves flew. But she kept walking. And then she saw the very thing her heart had feared most. Ravi, trying to sweep the yard with a broom twice his size, his face burning red from fever, his lips purple, his knees shaking like he might collapse. "Ravi!" Maya screamed as she rushed toward him and swept him into her arms. His body burned like hot coals, but his hands were ice cold. Why would they force a child to work in this cold? "He has a raging fever. What kind of monsters are they?" Without another word, Maya clutched Ravi tightly, kicked open Shanti's front gate, and marched straight into the house. Ramlal sat there like a stone statue. Shanti, lounging by the fire, acted as if nothing were wrong. "Are you blind? Can't you see he's burning up?" Shanti rolled her eyes. "That cursed boy is my problem. He's my husband's child, not yours. Who do you think you are to interfere?" Maya didn't respond. Her eyes flared like fire as she held Ravi tighter. "If you can't be his mother, then I will. From this moment on, he's my son. And no one will stop me from saving a dying child." She turned and walked out of that house like an angel without wings, needing no one's permission. Back at her home, Maya laid Ravi on her old, clean bamboo bed. She wiped him down with warm water, cooked ginger porridge, wrapped him in blankets, and sat beside him through the night. With one hand, she pressed a cool cloth to his forehead. In the other, she held her prayer beads, quietly chanting, "Namo Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, please help this child survive." The tiny house warmed not from fire, but from love. In the middle of the night, Ravi opened his eyes. His vision was blurred, but Maya's hand gripped his gently. "Don't be afraid, child. From now on, you have a mother here." For the first time in his life, he didn't feel cold. And he cried not from pain, but from emotion. His tear fell onto Maya's hand, warm and sacred, more powerful than any thank you ever spoken. A true practitioner needs not vows from the mouth, but vows from the heart. A mother is not the one who gives birth, but the one who shields her child from storm and sorrow without asking anything in return. Excerpt from the Treasure King Samadhi Sutra. Ravi remained feverish for 3 days. 3 days on Maya's modest bamboo bed, watched over by a woman with no blood relation, but eyes that welled with tears for him. A home that once echoed only with wind now carried the fragile breath of a 6-year-old child, and the soft chanting of a woman who had never given birth but who now lived the full truth of motherhood. Each night, Maya would lay her hand on Ravi's chest, transferring warmth from her palm, praying silently. If the heavens or Buddha can hear me, take my years and give them to him. He hasn't lived long enough to know love. On the 4th morning, Ravi opened his eyes. There was no longer the cold fire in his stepmother's gaze. No shouting. No slamming doors. Just the soft scent of ginger porridge, and a hand gently stroking his hair. You're awake. Are you hungry? I made light porridge. Try a little, okay. Ravi nodded, then burst into tears. For the first time, he cried because he was loved. Not because of hunger, cold, or pain, but because someone saw him not with disgust or indifference, but with pure compassion. Maya sat beside him, wiping away his tears. You don't have to apologize for being fragile. A child isn't born to suffer. A child is born to be loved. From that day forward, Ravi officially moved in with Maya. No paperwork. No court order. He chose her. And she chose him, two wandering souls finally finding shelter beneath the same roof. Each morning, Maya left early to work in the fields. Ravi stayed behind to tend the fire, rinse rice, water the plants. When she returned, she always brought back 2 warm sweet potatoes, a ripe banana, and a bedtime story. Once upon a time, she said one night, there was a small deer who was injured. The whole forest abandoned it. But an old tortoise, slow as he was, came and took care of it. When the deer grew up, it returned to care for the tortoise. Do you know why? Because kindness, when planted at the right time, never dies. Maya saved money so Ravi could return to school. She collected old books, sewed notebooks out of scrap paper, and gave him a single pencil sharpened with a razor blade. This pencil is precious, she said. It's the weapon that will free you from this village. Ravi believed her. For the first time, he studied with joy, not fear. He learned quickly, read well, drew beautifully, and above all, loved writing. Each night, he scribbled in a little notebook. Today, Mama Maya smiled because I carried 2 buckets of water without spilling them. I was really happy. Ravi adored Maya with every ounce of his childlike heart. When he saw her nodding off at the sewing machine, he covered her with a cloth. When she coughed from rice dust, he fetched her water. Mama, now that I'm older, should I do something so you won't suffer anymore? Maya smiled. You don't have to do anything, just live kindly. But Ravi couldn't accept so little. A dream began to bloom in his heart. One day, I'll build you a home so strong. No one can ever cast you out of my heart. One afternoon, they passed the small village temple. Maya stopped to light incense. Ravi asked, Mama, what do you always pray for? Maya placed her hand on his head. Not for me. I pray for you to become truly human. Ravi blinked. But I am human, right? She smiled sadly. Not everyone born in human form lives like a human. Buddha said, to be born human is rare. To be good is rarer. And one who loves others is the rarest of all. Time flowed like a small stream over smooth stones. Ravi grew up surrounded by Maya's quiet but unwavering love. Life remained hard, the leaf-thatched roof still leaked when it rained, and meals were often just boiled greens and dry bread, but never once did he feel poor. Because beside him was someone who used sacrifice instead of words, and eyes that passed on hope. Ever since receiving that old pencil from Maya, Ravi studied late into the night. He bent over his notebook, underlining strange words. When the oil lamp ran out, he wrote under moonlight. When the moon was hidden, he used the kitchen flame. One day, his teacher summoned Maya to school. She panicked, fearing Ravi had done something wrong. But the teacher only smiled. You should be proud. This boy has a rare memory, and a will I've never seen in children from this village. Maya smiled quietly. That evening, she cooked hot rice and Ravi's favorite soup. Why so much food today, Mama? Because today, you made me proud. That night, Ravi sat on the porch, notebook in hand, and whispered to himself, I'll study not to be better than anyone, but to be strong enough to pull Mama out of this weary life. Each night, while Ravi studied, Maya sewed torn clothes under the dim lamp. She didn't need much sleep. To her, happiness meant watching the child she loved live a life without hunger. With every penny she earned from repairing discarded garments, she saved to buy more paper, more ink. Every time Ravi got a good grade, she tucked the paper quietly into an old wooden chest like storing treasure. One evening, when Ravi groaned about a difficult math problem, Maya didn't scold him. Instead, she pulled him to the window, pointing to the giant Bodhi tree standing outside. You know, child, she said, long ago, the Buddha sat under a tree like this. He wrestled with the sorrow of the world for many nights and couldn't find the answer. But eventually, he realized. Pain isn't something to run from, it's something to understand. Math is the same. Don't avoid it. Face it. Ravi's eyes widened. He didn't fully understand. But something stirred inside him, a calmness. An awakening. Ravi resolved to study day and night to pass the Class 10 entrance exam. A high score would grant him a district scholarship, a step toward escaping poverty. The night before the exam, Maya quietly slipped into his bag a wooden prayer bead necklace, the only thing her late husband had left behind. Take this with you like taking me with you. Ravi clutched the beads, eyes misty. I promise. I'll pass. So you never have to sew at night again. 2 months later, when the exam results were posted at the school gate, Ravi stood silently. He didn't jump. He didn't scream like the other children. He simply placed his hand on the sheet where his name appeared. Ravi Kumar, ranked number 1 in the entire grade. When he returned home, he said nothing. He just handed the paper to Maya. She read it, then collapsed onto the bamboo chair, covering her face and sobbing. But this time, her tears were for joy. My son, finally has a future. That night, Ravi sat on the porch, looking toward the far-off horizon where the city lay beyond sight. I will keep going, Mama. I'll study even harder. Not just to change my own life, but to prove one thing. A child saved by love can one day help save the world. The summer Ravi turned 16, the burning wind swept across the dusty red road leading out of Rampur. The village children still flew kites, the school drum still beat as it always had. But something was changing. Ravi was leaving. One evening, after a simple dinner of stir-fried vegetables and cold rice, Ravi sat upright across from Maya. "Mama, I've thought it through. I want to go to Delhi. I need to work, to earn money, and to continue studying. If I stay here, I'm afraid time will bury my dreams." Maya was silent for a long time. She looked into her son's eyes, the eyes of someone no longer a timid boy, but a grown soul. He had grown not just in height, but in spirit. "I know you'll worry. But I want you to rest now. No matter what happens, I will always be your Ravi." Maya nodded, eyes red with emotion. "I won't hold you back. Because to hold you is to chain your destiny. But remember, don't lose yourself in a world too full of people. And if it ever hurts too much, call me. Even if all I hear is your sigh, I'll still be listening." The next morning, before the village awoke, two silhouettes stood at the worn-out bus stop at the edge of Rampur's dusty road, Ravi and Maya. He carried an old backpack, a bottle of water, a notebook, and a small bundle Maya pressed into his hands. "Ginger tea, dry biscuits, and that wool scarf I knit when you had your fever, remember?" He nodded. Holding the bundle felt like holding his whole childhood. As the engine roared, Maya ran after the bus for a few steps, calling out, "Ravi, no matter where you go, Mama will always be home." He didn't dare look back. Because if he did, he might not have had the strength to walk forward. 3 hours later, Ravi stepped into the city of Delhi. He was stunned. Traffic flowed like waterfalls. Strangers rushed by without making eye contact. High-rise buildings. Flashing signs. Honking horns. No one smiled. No one spoke kindly. He felt like he had crossed into another realm where speed corroded the human soul. For the first 3 days, Ravi slept in a park. His money bought only a loaf of bread and a small bottle of water. He wandered the streets looking for work, but everyone waved him off. "No ID. No diploma. You're too young, what can you even do?" On the 4th night, curled beside a market wall, Ravi reached into his pocket and pulled out the notebook Maya had given him. Inside was a small folded note, the handwriting shaky. "If one day you feel lost, remember you are Ravi, the boy who survived hell. No place can break you now. Mama Maya." He cried. Silently. His tears soaked into the old wool scarf still faintly scented with smoke from the distant kitchens of Rampur. On the 5th day, Ravi found a job at a roadside food stall. Washing dishes. Dumping trash. Pouring water. 14 hours a day, in exchange for 2 leftover meals and a spot to sleep on the cement floor behind the kitchen. The owner was rude. Co-workers were dismissive. But Ravi never complained. Every night, he wrote in his journal, "Washed 500 dishes today. Didn't cut my hand once. Tomorrow, I'll try harder to prove I'm worth keeping." And at the bottom of each page, always, "I miss you, Mama." Those who live among the dazzling world without forgetting who they are the ones who carry light through the dust of life. Adapted from the Lotus Sutra. Though Delhi was harsh, Ravi kept a piece of home in his heart. And that was what saved him from becoming another nameless shadow in the city's heartless machinery. A year passed since Ravi first arrived in Delhi. He still worked at the gritty food stall near the old bus depot. Washing dishes, sweeping floors, carrying trays. From 5 a.m. to past 10 p.m. every day. He ate leftover rice, slept on a tarp in the kitchen corner, and used a plastic bucket as a pillow. But no one knew beneath that grease-stained shirt, a heart was quietly forging strength from hardship. One evening, after scrubbing the last stack of dishes, Ravi swept the floor as usual. The owner, Mr. Jaganlal, sat at the counter, counting bills. Suddenly, Ravi spoke up. "Sir, I noticed we sold more ginger tea today. Maybe it's the cold. Tomorrow, we could try adding cinnamon and licorice root. It might taste better." Mr. Jaganlal looked up, surprised. This boy had never said anything before besides yes and sorry. "What do you know about tea?" he barked, but his eyes betrayed curiosity. Ravi replied softly. "My mother used to make tea for farmers. They said it gave them energy for the whole day. The next day, the weather turned cold again." Mr. Jaganlal tossed Ravi half a kilo of ginger. "Make some. If it makes the customers puke, you'll clean the whole shop yourself." Ravi's hands trembled. Still, he boiled the water, sliced the ginger, added cinnamon, licorice, honey just like Mama Maya taught him. The first cup went to an old truck driver. He took a sip, and nodded. "That's good. Who made this?" Jaganlal smirked. "The dish boy." Within days, more customers came back, asking specifically for that boy's tea. Watching silently, Mr. Jaganlal finally said, "You're not washing dishes anymore. From now on handle the tea counter. But don't make me regret it." Ravi woke earlier than anyone. He scrubbed the tea station, brewed carefully, recorded customer feedback. He even started naming the teas. Warm belly, ginger honey tea. Calm heart, mint licorice blend. Mother's memory, a secret recipe only he knew. One quiet night, while Ravi was updating the sales log, Mr. Jaganlal came over and placed a hand on his shoulder. "I don't know who you are, but I can see you're living for someone. And that's why you'll make it?" Ravi's voice trembled. "I live for my mother. The one who pulled me out of the darkness." That month, Ravi saved 500 rupees. He didn't buy new shoes. Didn't celebrate. He went to the post office and mailed it with a postcard to Maya. "Mama, for the first time I can send money to you. I'm good at making tea. Customers keep praising me. Please stop sewing so late at night. I promise, this is just the beginning." Late one night, Ravi hand-painted a sign in charcoal and placed it at the front of the stall. "Chai Maya." As warm as a mother's embrace. People passing by smiled. And slowly, the name began to spread. Regulars stopped asking for ginger tea. They said, "One Maya chai, please. And a little blessing to go with it." Filial piety is the root of being human. A heart that honors its mother is rich even in poverty, undefeated even in failure. From the Sutra of the Virtuous. Ravi never sought fame. He only wanted to send money home so that Maya would no longer struggle. But sometimes, success finds those who never chase it, only live their truth. Ravi turned 18. The Chai Maya stand had become a small tea shop on the city curb, tin roof, wooden tables, and flower pots planted by Ravi himself. The name wasn't just a brand. It was a quiet tribute to the woman who saved him from the itch. Each morning, as the first sunlight pierced the skyline, the scent of ginger tea drifted through the street. Customers often asked, "That dish boy, he's really the owner now?" Ravi only smiled softly. In his eyes was a calm that knew both peace and vigilance. Every month, Ravi sent money home. And every package came with a handwritten note. "Mama, I sold a record batch of tea yesterday. A truck driver called me the little boss. I smiled all day. I miss you. Back in the patched roof house in Rampur, Maya kept her routine, sitting by the window, waiting for the mailman. When the letter came, she placed her hand on the trembling words, as if touching her son's face. One day, Ravi sent enough money to repair Maya's leaking roof. And in Rampur, the forgotten village of his childhood, his name, once buried in silence, returned to the town's gossip. Ramlal's son sending cash like water to that Maya woman. They say he runs a tea shop in Delhi, famous too. That Maya sure knows how to raise a child. Eventually, the news reached Shanti. The woman who once shoved burnt rice into Ravi's hands with a scornful sneer now sat frozen beside an oil lamp, gripping her skirt tightly. That money should have been mine. That evening at dinner, Shanti quietly set down her chopsticks and turned to Ramlal. Do you remember Ravi? He mumbled weakly. That boy we raised. Now he's earning money regularly. And giving it all to a stranger. While we the real parents sit here eating cold leftovers. Ramlal said nothing. Because deep down, he knew exactly who raised Ravi, and who abandoned him. But Shanti wasn't done. From that day on, she went around the village, house to house, spreading rumors. She accused Maya of stealing her son, casting spells to keep his money, and driving a wedge between blood relatives. When Maya heard, she simply sighed. We can't silence the world's tongue. But we also don't need to lower ourselves to explain to those who rejected us from the beginning. That night, when she wrote to Ravi, she almost left it out. But with trembling hands, she penned, My dear son, there have been some unpleasant things said about us here in the village. But don't worry, I'm okay. I don't need others to understand. It's enough for me that you continue living kindly. Ravi read the letter. His eyes blurred with tears. He had forgiven. But he could never forget the freezing moment years ago, when he stood at Shanti's door, and was driven away like a sick stray dog. He sat in meditation by candlelight, in front of a small altar bearing a statue of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, the one Maya had sent him. I vow to keep my heart still. I will not argue, I will not defend. Because those who live in truth don't need to shout to prove they're right. The true practitioner, when wrongly accused, does not argue. When slandered, does not seek revenge. Because they know time and karma are the fairest judges of all. Dhammapada, verse 256. Ravi understood. The further one travels, the harder the shadows of the past try to pull them back. But if one's heart holds light, no darkness can swallow a soul that once rose from the depths of hell. News that Ravi is making money like water in Delhi spread through Rampur faster than the monsoon wind. And while Maya used that money to fix her roof, rebuild the fence, and help neighbors repair their wells, Shanti began to calculate. No longer just whispers. Her greed stepped into the daylight, bold and shameless, demanding a share. One morning, as Maya was sweeping the yard, Ramlal appeared. He looked older, hunched, his eyes avoiding hers, as if hiding something. Holding a straw hat in his hands, he stammered, Maya, I have something to ask. Maya paused, nodded, and invited him in. She brewed tea with the same hands that once saved Ravi's life. But before the first cup was finished, Ramlal cut in like a knife. Ravi is my son. He is my blood, after all. Now that he's successful, all I ask is for you to share a little of what he sends. You can keep most of it. We just need a bit. Maya sat in silence. 1 minute. 2 minutes. The air grew thick. Then she gently asked, "Do you remember when that child had a fever and convulsed in the freezing yard?" Ramlal lowered his head. "When he was beaten, starved, and cursed as a jinx, what did you do? When I held him in my arms while the whole village mocked me, what did you say? Now he's grown, and suddenly, blood matters. Did you ever wipe his forehead? Did you ever give him a bowl of warm rice?" Maya's voice was calm, yet every word struck like a bell on the heart of the dead. Ramlal could not respond. The very next day, Shanti stormed into Maya's yard with 3 neighbors behind her. She shouted across the yard, "Maya, I've come to reclaim the child I raised. You lured him away, stole his affection, and now you take all his money. What right do you have to benefit from what I earned?" Maya stepped outside, as calm as ever. She didn't argue. She didn't shout. She simply replied, "I never wanted your child. I only kept the child I once saved from death. As for the money, he sends it of his own will. If you believe it's unjust, take it before the village council." 3 days later, an emergency village meeting was held. Location: the old cultural hall of Rampur. Attendees: the village head, elders, residents, and the 2 women at the center, Shanti and Maya. The whole village gathered. All eyes turned to the 2 women. One who had once cursed her stepson. The other, a widowed woman who cradled a child not of her blood through many winters. The village chief began. "We're here today to resolve a matter regarding the money Ravi sends. One claims to be his stepmother. The other, his caretaker. But first, let's hear their hearts." Shanti stood up, tears running down her face. Her voice trembled, as if forced. "That boy is my husband's son. I raised him for years. Even though I'm a stepmother, I still cared for him. Now that he's earning, I just hope he remembers the one who raised him." The hall fell silent. Some elderly women shook their heads. Those who had once seen Ravi eat dry rice, tremble in the rain, or get slapped till his lips bled, they knew that so-called care was a lie. Then Maya stood. Her back was still straight, her voice soft, but her eyes were the eyes of a mother who had wrestled death to protect a child no one wanted. "I don't need him to call me mother. But I know. I held him when no one else would. Fed him when no one else did. Wiped his tears when the world turned its back. I ask for nothing. Only to remain the place he can return to, when his legs grow weary." Just then, as tension thickened like a drawn bowstring, the village head received a phone call. It was Ravi. He put it on speaker. Ravi's voice rang out clear and steady. "This is Ravi. I know there's a meeting today. Let me be clear. I don't send money because of blood. I send it because of the heart. And in my heart, there's only one mother. The one who fed me spoon by spoon when I lay dying. Those who once saw me as a burden. Feel free to continue doing so. I do not need their recognition." The hall erupted not with applause, but with a collective sigh of relief. Because the truth had finally spoken. Birth is a blessing, but nurturing is a vow. One who offers warmth on a cold night surpasses even blood. Excerpt from the Contemplation of the Mind Ground Sutra. Shanti fell silent. Ramlal bowed his head. And the villagers looked upon Maya with newfound reverence. From that day forward, they called her the Great Mother of Rampur. One early winter afternoon, A silver-painted bus rumbled to a stop at the edge of Rampur. Dust billowed. The children playing near the temple paused to watch a tall man step down. His hair was slightly long, shirt white and plain, carrying a faded canvas suitcase. It was Ravi. 5 years had passed. The frail boy had become a poised young man. But in his eyes there was still a softness. A place reserved for a mother not bound by blood. At the gate of Maya's house, Ravi paused. The house had been rebuilt with sturdy bricks, a red-tiled roof. But the bamboo fence she'd always loved remained untouched. As he opened the gate, he heard a gasp. "Ravi. Is that really you?" Maya, now almost entirely gray-haired, ran out, her smile bright as sunshine after rain. She wrapped her arms around him. They stood there in the yard, speechless. Just heartbeats, and tears falling onto his shoulder. "Mama. I'm home. I didn't build this house to show off. I just wanted you to have a roof that wouldn't leak. You came home, and that's enough for me." The next afternoon, Ravi asked for permission to walk around the village. He stopped before his old house, the place that had once been his childhood hell. The wooden door had rotted. Moss grew thick in the yard. The walls were cracked and crumbling. An old neighbor whispered, "Since you left, that house has never heard laughter again." Ravi stepped inside. His shoes creaked against the brick floor. Every corner brought back waves of memory. The spot where he was beaten for breaking a bowl. The spot where he curled up hungry on freezing nights. The spot where he was scolded for asking for more rice. He placed a white flower on the floor, as if burying the past in a silent ritual. "I don't hate you, but I'll never forget. All I ask is to let it rest in peace." Ravi visited his biological father, Ramlal. The house was quiet. Ramlal sat on the doorstep, hands trembling as he wove strips of bamboo. When he saw Ravi, he froze. After a long pause, he finally said, I don't deserve to call you son. But I'm glad you've lived well." Ravi didn't nod. Didn't shake his head. He simply replied, "If you want to know what raising a child truly means, look at Mama Maya. You didn't lack chances. You lacked courage." Then he pulled out an old cloth, the very one his birth mother had wrapped him in, and tied it together with the prayer beads Maya once gave him, placing them gently in Ramlal's hands. "These are my two mothers. One gave me a body. The other saved my soul. Live the rest of your life well." Shanti heard Ravi had returned. She tried to visit. Wearing an old sari, holding a bag of sweets, she approached Maya's home, but didn't step in. "Ravi. I'm sorry. I was wrong. But who hasn't made mistakes? I think of you often. I can't sleep when I recall your words at the village meeting." Ravi didn't look at her. He stood beside Maya and replied firmly, "I'm not angry. But I won't relive a nightmare. Everyone has the right to change. But no one has the right to demand to be accepted again." Shanti lowered her head and turned away. The village children watched in silence. No one laughed. But in every heart, they understood that some things come too late. Forgiveness is the virtue of the wise. But distance is the boundary of those who have been wounded. A practitioner must know, letting go isn't forgetting. It's choosing not to hurt anymore. Excerpt from the Vimalakirti Sutra, on the unattached mind. Ravi had come home, but not to seek justice, only to close the old chapters with his own hands. That spring, Rampur bloomed with bright red silk cotton flowers. The village atmosphere had changed. No more whispers, no more suspicious glances. Now, whenever Ravi passed by, people smiled and nodded. Children waved, and adults teased. "The Chai Maya owner is back." Ravi smiled in return. But his eyes always searched for one person, Mama Maya. She no longer worked in the fields. After nearly collapsing from back pain, Ravi had insisted, "Mama, just rest. Read. Garden. Let me handle the rest." One evening, as life quieted, Maya gently placed her hand on Ravi's shoulder and asked a question she had held in her heart through many moons. "Son, be honest with me, do you ever plan to start a family?" Ravi fell silent. That question had lived in his heart too, just never quietly enough to speak. "I used to think I didn't deserve it. Someone like me once abandoned, raised only through your kindness. I feared I wouldn't know how to be a husband. Or a father." Maya smiled warmly. "No one is born knowing how to love the right way. But someone who loves his mother will learn to love a wife. And a child. And if you don't learn to believe in love, then have I raised a man afraid of life." A few days later, Maya handed Ravi a small piece of paper. It was an address in a nearby village home to a young teacher named Lakshmi. "I met her a few times at the market. She's gentle. Lost her father young. Her mother sells vegetables. If you have time, pay a visit." Ravi didn't refuse. That day, he brought a special tea blend he had crafted himself and went to Lakshmi's home. She answered the door, long black hair, a white salwar suit, a pale pink scarf. Her eyes were steady, not shy, not probing. Just soft, the way someone looks when they know that hearts, like soil, need time and rain. They sat under a mango tree, with the buzz of cicadas and a faint scent of lemon blossoms. No promises. No flirtation. Just two healed scars recognizing each other. 1 month later, Rampur held its first ever wedding with free tea for every guest, blended by Ravi, served by Lakshmi. There was no loud music, no paper confetti, no extravagant dowry. Just laughter, blessings, and a mother who watched quietly as her son tied a red thread around his bride's wrist. "You belong to him now," Maya said. "But from today, I also have a daughter." Lakshmi held Maya's hand, eyes welling. "You were my role model, even before I met Ravi." Ravi built a small room next to Maya's house for him and Lakshmi. Red tile floors. Bougainvillea over the porch. A wooden tea table beneath the jackfruit tree. Each morning, Lakshmi watered plants and swept the yard. Ravi brewed tea, handing Maya a cup before leaving for work. "Mama, I still have all the ingredients for mother's memory chai." "And what's the new ingredient today?" "The love of your daughter-in-law. The one who can turn a house into a haven for wounded hearts. Is already practicing the Dharma in daily life. No grand temple needed, just a warm kitchen. No gongs or bells, just laughter on the porch." From the lay practitioner's Aspiration Sutra. Rampur now had a new couple, not loud, not flashy. But everyone knew. They were living proof that devotion, if nurtured, could bloom into joy. One summer morning, sunlight filtered through the bougainvillea and landed softly on the steps. Lakshmi stood in the kitchen, hand on her growing belly. She looked out to see Maya washing vegetables, and Ravi wiping a wooden chair, preparing the cradle for their soon-to-arrive baby. The house was small. But every step, every smile, every "Mama, I've made the tea," made it feel boundless. When Maya heard Lakshmi was pregnant, She stood still for a moment, then smiled, eyes shining with tears. At last. I'm going to be a grandmother. Ravi said nothing. He simply placed his hand on his wife's belly and whispered, "Forgive me, child. Your father once grew up in shadows. But I swear, you will never live the way I did." One evening, Ravi received a letter from an old friend in Delhi, once a loyal customer of Chai Maya. "Ravi, I'm launching a tea chain and want you as my partner to lead the honest tea division starting in central Delhi. I'll handle capital and space. You bring the recipes, your soul, and your story. Think about it." Ravi read the letter. Then looked over. At his wife knitting a baby sweater. At his mother counting rice grains for dinner. His heart began to split. That night, Ravi couldn't sleep. He stepped into the yard and sat beneath the old jackfruit tree. The wind was gentle. His shirt still smelled faintly of tea. The years in the city returned: dust, cold meals, damp mats, and Maya's voice long ago. "Son, if one day you face two roads, one leading to success, one leading to peace, ask your heart, what does it want for those you love?" Ravi closed his eyes. His heart answered, "I want both. But if I must choose, I choose warmth. I choose laughter. I choose the way Mama looks at me with faith." Ravi wrote back, "Thank you for believing in me. But for now, I hold a treasure greater than any business. An elderly mother, a loving wife, and a child not yet born who needs me near. When tea can bring happiness back home, I'll step out. But for now, I choose to stay under this little roof." A month later, Lakshmi gave birth to a baby boy. When his first cries echoed through the red-roofed home, Maya burst into tears. "That's the first baby's cry that ever made me happy." Ravi named his son Kiran, a little ray of light. "Because you came from the shadows I once survived. And now, our home has a new lamp." Final scene, a morning like any other. Mama Maya feeds fish by the well. Lakshmi hangs baby clothes to dry. Ravi carries little Kiran out to the yard, placing him in a small wooden cradle under the bougainvillea. He makes tea for his mother, for his wife. They sit together. Not many words. But the wind, the light, the child's laughter say everything. One who shelters a child's laughter beneath their roof, one who brews tea in peace, has already built a pure land in their own home. From the Sutra on Cause, Effect and Gratitude. Ravi didn't open a tea chain in Delhi, but in Rampur, beside a small tea stove, amid voices calling Papa, Grandma, he had opened a realm of happiness that no city could buy. 6 months after baby Kiran's birth, Ravi received an invitation from the local government. The Warmth and Culture Festival was coming to Delhi's Central Park, and they wanted traditional tea brewers with meaningful stories to join. One organizer, a journalist who had once written about Ravi, said, "You don't just make tea. You tell stories through tea. And if there's one story worth sharing, it's the story of your mother." Ravi was silent for a long time. Then he turned to Maya. "Mama, if you had a chance to tell the world who you are, would you?" Maya smiled quietly, but her eyes gleamed brighter than ever. "If I speak, it won't be to earn sympathy, but to let the world know. Kindness, when big enough, can save an entire life." 3 days later, in the heart of Delhi's largest park, a small bamboo booth was set up. A wooden sign read, "Chai Maya, Tea, and a Story of a Mother." No red banners. No glossy posters. Just 3 wooden chairs. 1 old copper kettle. A silver-haired mother sitting silently beside boiling water. And Ravi brewing tea with the same hands that once washed dishes to survive. Passers-by stopped. Sat down. Sipped. Some asked, "What's special about this tea?" Ravi smiled. This tea once saved a dying child. Not because of ingredients, but because the woman who brewed it once cradled that child in a winter storm and whispered, "Don't die. Mama is here." People cried. Some dropped coins into the charity jar. Some bowed to Maya. Others just let a tear fall. That afternoon, a group of students came to film a documentary on tea and motherhood. The host asked, "Ma'am, did you ever wish Ravi would call you mother?" Maya replied, "No. Because the moment I held him, I knew. A real mother doesn't need to be called. She just needs to be believed." The interviewer was speechless. Maya went on to share everything. The night she saw Ravi burning with fever. The torn tarp, the thin porridge. His purple hands clutching an empty belly. And the first letters he wrote with cheap ink but deep love. "I never had children of my own. But I was chosen. By a child who had thousands of blood relatives to choose from. That is my blessing. And my lesson. Sometimes family is chosen by the heart, not the womb." At the end of the event, Ravi was invited to the main stage to speak on the topic of gratitude to mothers. But all he said was, "I don't thank my mother. Because to thank her would mean I thought she owed me something. But she's the one who paid every debt life gave me with a bowl of porridge, a cup of tea, and a sleepless night. I just want to live a life worthy of the woman who saved me from being forgotten." The entire audience stood up. No one clapped loudly. They simply rose, bowed, and stood in quiet reverence. When a single flame is lit in a noisy city, it doesn't dim the other lights. It simply reminds us that true light comes from stories the world tried to forget. Excerpt from the Chronicle of Silent Radiance. And that night, in a city of 1,000 lights, one small tea stall never went dark. Because in that place, there was a mother once left behind, a son once rejected, and a story that had never stopped living. That autumn, the air in Rampur was cool and jasmine lined the paths in white bloom. Ravi had just returned from Delhi with his wife and children after the Chai Maya event. In their suitcase was a national cultural honor. In his hand a contract inviting him to open a tea shop in Japan. The biggest offer he had ever received. But Ravi didn't rush to accept. What he longed for most was to sit beneath the eaves, hear Mama Maya's soft cough as she sat in the sun, and witness his youngest daughter take her first steps. Ravi's second child, little Anandi, had just turned 1. Mama Maya lovingly called her baby Bodhi because her eyes are round, but her spirit is still. Like someone who suffered, yet still knows how to smile. One afternoon, while Ravi swept the yard and Lakshmi hung laundry, Anandi let go of her chair, and took her first steps. No one held her. No one reached out. Except for Mama Maya, who leaned forward from beside the stove and opened her arms. "Come to Grandma, my little Bodhi." And she walked. Tiny steps that echoed deep in the earth. Ravi and Lakshmi froze. When the baby fell into Maya's arms, the old woman held her close and cried like a child. "Your father took his first steps right in this corner. But no one reached for him. Today, I catch you both." And with that, I have no regrets left in this life. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Ravi sat with Mama Maya under the veranda. The moon was bright. The scent of magnolia drifted by. She spoke first. "Son, I feel this body is ready to rest." Ravi didn't respond. But his hands clenched into fists. "Not because of illness. Not from sorrow. But because my vow is fulfilled. A child not of my blood has become a good man. A home now echoes with children's laughter. A story has been heard by the world." She turned to him. "Don't cry when I'm gone. Just brew a pot of mother's memory chai. Invite the village. And tell the children. There was once a mother. Chosen by a child. And she never once regretted it." She placed her old sandalwood prayer beads in his hand. "Don't build a shrine for me. Don't carve a gravestone. All I ask is that once a year, you brew a sincere pot of tea. Serve it to single mothers, lonely elders, orphaned children. And in that warmth, I will live again." When a mother can part from life with a smile, it means she has already become wind, tea, and a gaze in her child's eyes. The truly living need no body to keep loving. Avatasaka Sutra, chapter on inconceivable liberation. That night, as Ravi gently held the beads in his hand, he understood. No one is ever truly lost. Those remembered with gratitude live forever. The following spring, Rampur felt different. Not because of the newly paved roads or the restored temple roof, but because the little home no longer echoed with Mama each morning. Mama Maya passed away one quiet afternoon, beneath the bougainvillea in full bloom. A faint smile still touched her lips. Her fingers rested loosely on the old beads. Beside her sat a cup of tea, half full. No one wailed. The entire village lit candles. Flowers were laid in silence. Children she had once taught lined up, each holding a cup of tea. Mama didn't want music or drums at her farewell. She only asked for cups of tea served with both hands, and a grateful heart. 3 months after her 49th day memorial, Ravi built a small bamboo hut on the hill behind the village. On the front hung a wooden sign. "Tea Garden of Mother's Memory. A cup of tea. A life comforted. No price. No cashier. Everyone was served equally from beggars to businessmen. If you've ever been hurt, lost, orphaned, or lonely, have a cup of Mother's Memory chai. Just like Mama once served me with all her love." The story of Tea Garden of Mother's Memory spread. Newspapers, TV, and YouTube covered it. But Ravi never gave interviews. He only said, "I'm not the story. My mother is. She's the one who taught me how to change the world with a teapot." Visitors came from afar. Not to take pictures, but to sit quietly, to drink, and to cry. On one wall, a wooden plaque read, "If you've lost your mother, if you never had one, if you dream of becoming one, sit here. Let your heart be held through this tea." When Anandi turned 6, she asked Ravi, "Papa, why do people cry when they drink our tea?" Ravi bent down, ruffled her hair. "Because they were hungry. Not for food but for love. And this tea is the hug they've always dreamed of." Anandi nodded. She began learning how to boil water, slice ginger, and pour tea with both hands, never spilling a drop. And every time a guest left, she pressed her hands together and said, "Grandma said tea brewed with filial love can heal a broken heart." One full moon day, as lotus flowers bloomed in the pond behind the hill, the whole village gathered for Mama Maya's memorial. There were no stone altars. No eulogies. Just one ritual. Everyone brewed a cup of tea, placed it on the table, and wrote, "Thank you, Mama. You didn't give me life. But you gave me life again." Finally, Ravi stepped forward, bowed, and said, "I'm not sad that Mama is gone. Because I know. Every time someone finds comfort in a cup of tea, she has come home again. A cup of tea cannot end hunger. But it can rescue someone from despair. A single hug may not change the world. But it can change a person. And that person might change the world." The Heart of Tea Sutra. Handed down by those who were once held by a mother in life's storms. The end. Chai Maya is not just tea. It is a way of life. A life lived like Mama Maya's. Quiet. Patient. Expecting nothing. And yet, capable of making thousands weep. From a single sip of tea on a windy evening. So if you're holding this story in your heart right now, don't let it fade like steam from a forgotten cup. Perhaps you, too, have known a woman like Mama Maya. Or maybe you've been that child, waiting for someone to reach out with warmth, not words. Then brew a cup. Sit down. And remember her. And if this story touched something tender inside you, share it with someone who needs to know that love doesn't have to be loud. And that a small act of kindness can carry the weight of a lifetime. Because somewhere out there, someone is still waiting for a hug. That might come in the form of a single, quiet cup of tea.